money. Sharp, sharp, that's the plan. With SC Mobile, always close. Just tap, the app that's doing the most. SC Mobile, always close. Just tap, the app that's doing the most.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. I deem it a privilege to be part of this virtual experience. I've been asked to come and speak on COVID-19 and its mutant variants. As much as possible, I would make it very simple and easy to comprehend. So the outline of my presentation. Yes, so I'll give an introduction. I'll talk about the COVID variants, and then the Delta variant, the COVID situation in Ghana, the symptoms, prevention, and then conclusion. Next slide. Okay, so all of us would notice that anybody walking on the streets nowadays would talk about COVID-19. Kids know what to do, adults know what to do, and it's become something that is very, very troublesome nowadays, and everyone is talking about it. So what is this COVID-19? So the virus was first detected in Wuhan, China, in the late 2019. And we are aware that this virus belongs to a family of viruses called coronaviruses. And as we know, the Mediterranean East Respiratory Syndrome, that's MERS, and then SARS are a few of the viruses that belong to the same family. So the disease that this COVID virus causes is COVID-19 disease. And as I said earlier on, it was first discovered in Wuhan in an open air wet market where fresh meat and fish was sold. And animals were actually killed on the spot. Okay, so it's been postulated that it's likely that this virus actually migrated from bats and in some situations probably from pangolin. We know that the virus has spread within China, spreads to different provinces, and then spread to other countries and has now crossed continents. So it's now a global pandemic. The virus spreads mainly via droplets from saliva and discharge from the nose when anyone coughs or sneezes. But there are other ways that it can be transmitted. Viruses are generally stubborn, and we've started with a virus. Now we are well aware of various variants that are there. So these viruses undergo mutations and then begin to cause more problem. And since COVID is relatively new, there's a lot of effort that is being put in by the scientific world to try and find ways of curbing the situation. Most infected people would actually have mild or moderate symptoms and recover even without any treatment. But we are well aware that there's also a lot of mortality and morbidity associated with this COVID. Next slide. So there are a group of individuals who are more at risk of developing severe diseases. And these are the extremes of age, most likely the older population, and individuals who have medical conditions like hypertension, diabetes, and those who are immunocompromised. So patients who have had organ transplantation are on some immunosuppressive drugs, people with diabetes and the like. We know that the best way of solving this COVID-19 virus spread is by getting to understand the virus more and putting measures in place to curb the spread. Next slide. Okay, so we'll talk about the COVID waves. So an epidemic wave implies a number of sick individuals, a defined peak, and then a decline. So as Jifa said earlier on, there was a first wave, there was a second wave, and then there's a third wave. In Africa, the virus actually spread within 3 months. Within 3 months, it has spread throughout most of the African countries, including sub-Saharan Africa. And the first wave actually progressed very slowly. So if you would have, followed the information on the internet, you would have realized that in Africa, we're not recording so many cases. We probably felt that maybe our environment could help us fight this pandemic. Relatively, if you compare the numbers involved, you realize that despite we losing significant lives, statistically, we are not dying a lot from COVID. So in December 2020, the second wave hit Africa, and this was much more aggressive with many more cases. Next slide. For Ghana, the first major wave, that's the COVID wave, was from June to July 2020. And your guess is as good as mine. It changed a lot of things in our country. We had to go into a lockdown. A lot of businesses suffered. A lot of people actually also experienced various psychosocial problems as well as complications from the virus. The second wave, as we all know, was attributed to the fact that we're not following our COVID protocols. Also from our ports, when people come in, well, for most people, getting to enter into an environment where COVID didn't seem to be spreading fast meant that, well, when I get here, I can do whatever that I like. The government put in place a lot of maybe measures to be able to curb this, but we realized that, well, it wasn't really that effective. Now we have a third wave here with us. And not only a third wave, it comes with a mutant virus called the Delta virus. And I'll go into details later with the following slides. A little statistics again. So we got our first case on March 12, 2020, and since then it has spread within all regions. Currently we have over 112,000 confirmed cases and over 600,000 active cases and over 900 deaths, and it's still counting. So with the COVID variants, so as I said, viruses are very, very stubborn. Various portions of them undergo some mutations, which are basically some changes. And these give rise to other COVID variants or viruses that look very similar to the mother virus, for want of a better description. Slides. For want of a better description. Slide. So based on this mutation, WHO actually classified the COVID variants into different groups, about 3 groups. The first group is the COVID variants of interest, then COVID variants of concern, and then COVID variants of high performance. Please come back, 2 slides back. Yes, okay, yeah. So WHO classified these COVID variants into 3 groups: variants of interest, variants of concern, and variants of high consequence. Thankfully, we don't have any variant of high consequence yet because our resources seem to be curbing the situation. The vaccines that we have now is able to protect us against all the COVID variants, and it's actually safe to use. So currently, we have 4 variants of concern: the Alpha, Beta, Delta, and Gamma. And currently in Ghana, we have the Delta variants. As I said earlier on, these variants are problematic because of their transmissibility and then their propensity to cause a more severe disease. And of course, when this happens, it takes its toll on our resources, our health resources, to be able to curb the situation. So basically what it means is that these COVID variants seem to spread very fast, and if you have it, chances that you develop very severe cases is very high. So how does these variants impact on our diagnostics, treatment, and vaccines? So first of all, it interference with our diagnostics test targets. Substantially, there's a decreased susceptibility to one or more classes of therapies. So we are not too sure which kind of therapy should we use. Will the standard protocol for treatment actually cut across for all the variants, or will it change? Also, one of the concerns is that will the antibodies that our bodies produce against this COVID virus be strong enough to be able to protect us in the long term? The other thing too is, the vaccines that are currently available, will they actually give us protection in the long term against these mutant variants? We'll answer these questions as we move along. So the variant of concern now that I'll delve deep into or give more information on is the Delta variant. It was first identified in India, and it's actually the most predominant strain in the virus worldwide. It was detected actually in June 2021 in Ghana. And as I said earlier on, it's as a result of a mutation of the initial mother virus. This mutation occurs in what we call the spike protein, which is a portion of the mother virus. The spike protein actually is what attaches to the cells of susceptible hosts and then causes infection or inflammation. So what do we need to know about the Delta variants? Basics. It spreads faster than all the other variants. It's more deadly, spreads more faster than Alpha, Beta, and then Gamma. Unvaccinated people are at high risk. And this, I'm sure, will be a matter of concern to our HR folks as well. Because if we have a new variant, and this variant has a possibility to cause very, very severe cases, and there are so many other people around who haven't vaccinated, it becomes a huge public health issue. The infections also would occur in small populations, which may also be fully vaccinated. So despite being fully vaccinated, you've gotten your first and second doses of Pfizer vaccine, AstraZeneca, and then Moderna, or you've gotten your one dose of Johnson & Johnson, there's still a small possibility, a small chance that you could still be infected with the Delta variant. The good thing is that even after infection with the Delta variant, if you are fully vaccinated, the likelihood of you getting a severe form of the disease is reduced to the barest minimum. So once again, it's further reinforcing the fact that it is very, very necessary to get yourself vaccinated. There's been a lot of conspiracy theories about the vaccines all over social media and all. But these vaccines have been taken through rigorous methods in the lab, and we currently have vaccines that are very efficacious with very minimal side effects, which wouldn't actually cause severe illness in yourself. So I'm advocating for all of us to join the vaccination train so that we can attain herd immunity. The vaccine provides the best protection for these variants, as I said. Now we have another sub-variant of this Delta COVID variant, which is called the Delta Plus variant. The problem we have with this virus is that it has an extra mutation on K17, which is also a portion of the spike protein that causes inflammation in healthy cells. It has a slight advantage over the Delta variant because it spreads even more faster than this stubborn Delta variant, which spreads fast in itself. We can move on. Next slide. So which symptoms are we likely to have when we suffer from COVID-19? By and large, about 33% of individuals will not have any symptoms at all. And that makes it very, very confusing, because if we are in an environment where most people will not show any symptoms, how will we be able to identify those individuals, protect them so that they don't transmit it to the susceptible or vulnerable population? That's those individuals who have diabetes, hypertension, immunosuppressed because of one or two things, kidney problems, and the like. About 81% of people who have symptoms would have symptoms that are very mild, and this is good. And then we would have about 14% of individuals who have very severe cases, then about only 5%, based on current research data, that would have critical disease that will require ICU care. So the risk factor for severe disease, as I've said, first, individuals who haven't vaccinated at all. This COVID Delta variant is likely to attack you and cause more problems. Increasing age, so senior citizens in our environment are more at risk of developing very severe cases of COVID. And then comorbidities, cardiovascular disease, hypertension, diabetes, people who have lung problems, cancer, immunosuppression, kidney problems, obesity, and smoking. Sad enough, individuals who have low socioeconomic background are more likely to develop COVID-19 issues because they may be in crowded places, they may be malnourished, they may not be able to have enough money to be able to get the drugs that are necessary for treatment. Next slide. So common symptoms, when you look through, you realize that these symptoms are very non-specific. You may have some of these symptoms in any form of infection. However, looking at the fact that we are dealing with the COVID global pandemic, it is important that when you have any of these symptoms, you report to the right facility, take your COVID test, put measures in place to quarantine, and then depending on how the situation turns out, you'll be admitted and isolated and treated, or you may be discharged to go home and then self-isolate until further time. So mostly, patients will have fever and then cough. That's why Jifa said nowadays, if you cough, we don't know what is happening. People will look at you in a very funny way. But there was cough before COVID, so I think we shouldn't really stigmatize individuals who may genuinely have some allergies that may predispose them to coughing or sneezing. And then muscle pain. Muscle pain is also one of the symptoms that we are likely to have. You may have headaches, difficulty in breathing. Most people do even start off with a common cold, may have some sore throats. The body is able to handle the situation. They may lose their sense of taste, sense of smell. Some may even have diarrhea. So even though we know transmissibility is from droplets of individuals who are infected, coughing or sneezing, even fecal matter has been shown to be able to transmit the virus in very small populations. Nausea and vomiting is also noticed. As I said earlier on, loss of sense of smell or taste, some abdominal pain, and then runny nose. So we'll zoom quickly to prevention. So now that COVID is relatively new, and there's a lot of information out there, there's a lot of effort in the scientific world to try to elucidate and understand what this virus is all about. But we've realized that the sure way of protecting ourselves and preventing ourselves from getting COVID is through vaccination. So preferably, we'll be happy if everyone avails themselves and then gets vaccinated, because that's the only surest way that we can get to prevent us from getting the disease. It is also very important because that is the only way we can actually break transmission. If we get to the situation where we have about 60% of the population being vaccinated, then we would have developed herd immunity, and then we can start smiling because we would have broken the transmissibility trend. And then wearing a face mask, wearing it properly. And I'm sure there are many jingles, many visuals on the airwaves and then in social media that tells you or teaches you how to wear the face mask correctly. And then social distancing, 6 feet apart. So at arm's length, you shouldn't be too close to individuals in your environment. And then you have to avoid crowds and then poorly ventilated areas. In relation to HR, those individuals that are working in offices and closed spaces, even after you have been fully vaccinated, you have to wear your face masks. For fully vaccinated individuals, you must be wearing your face mask, especially in closed areas and then poorly ventilated areas. As for those individuals who haven't vaccinated at all, you can't avoid not to use your masks. And then our age-old hand washing. Hand washing is a tool that cannot be replaced by anything because it doesn't only help you prevent transmission of pathogens like the COVID virus, it also helps you prevent many other diseases, many other pathogens that are of public health concern, cholera, so many other things. So as for hand washing, it's supposed to be a simple tool that should be at the back pocket of everyone. You should also learn to cough inside of your elbow or into your palms, after which you should wash your hands. As much as possible, we should ensure that there's continuous cleaning of our surfaces with the right disinfectants, about 70% plus alcohol on our surfaces. This is another thing that HR can also take up and then ensure that I'm sure already those things are in place. But the goal is to have it cleaned on a continuous basis. Also putting various hand sanitizers, the approved ones, at vantage points, so that people who are coming in and out of places, people who may have gone to the market and then are coming back, would have access to some of these things and then use them. Also, nowadays, it looks like the pricing has come down a bit. I'm not too sure whether that is the case and that I can generalize, but everyone should have some hand sanitizer by them. You use the hand sanitizer if your hand is not visibly stained. Immediately you get close to an area where you can have safe running clean water and soap, you are expected to wash your hands. Okay, next. So, why should we get vaccinated? As I said earlier on, vaccination is the only known way in which breaking of this transmission can be done. The vaccines are safe and then they are effective. Let's continue. Okay, forgive me for that break. I guess I've been talking a lot since yesterday. So, yes, the vaccines are safe. They've been developed. They've gone through rigorous clinical trials. They are not experimental, and they are safe. All the vaccines that are approved, AstraZeneca, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, Sputnik V, are all safe and are efficacious, about 60 to 90% efficacy. And they're actually effective. Coming from a teaching hospital, I can tell you for sure, even though these statistics may not be official yet, that currently those we are seeing in the hospitals now with severe illness that requires admission are those individuals who haven't gotten vaccinated at all, or individuals who have under-vaccinated, that is, they have only one dose of the vaccine. For those vaccines that they are supposed to have 2 doses. We can move on. The vaccines are also very good enough because even after you come down with COVID-19 and then you recover, the antibodies that you produce that are supposed to have memory to be able to fight another reinfection are short-lived. Some of them can actually wane off within days. So it's very important that even after you've recovered from a COVID-19 infection, you still have to talk to your health worker to determine when you can actually go for vaccination. If you are fully vaccinated, you can have up to about a year's protection of either severe disease or no disease at all. And of course, you wouldn't die from COVID-19. The vaccines themselves, we know, are weakened forms of the COVID virus itself. So there's a tendency to think that, hey, if I go for the vaccine, maybe I'll come down with COVID. Fortunately for us, after the trials and all, they are just likely to cause very, very mild symptoms which can actually be controlled and managed by your health worker. So it doesn't mean that when you go for the vaccine, you can get full-blown COVID-19. So in conclusion, I'll conclude with 4 points. SARS-CoV-2 now has become a major public health burden in the world. It's become like a new malaria, really. It's associated with a lot of morbidity and mortality, and the global community is very concerned. The importance of strict adherence to our COVID-19 protocols cannot be overemphasized. Currently, we have very effective vaccines, and all these vaccines are particularly effective against severe illness, hospitalization, and death. So my last slide would just give you a nice picture that will tell us some of the things that we are supposed to do, which I've mentioned already. We encourage everyone to get vaccinated as soon as the vaccines are made available. We are also asking people to make sure that they are socially distancing, keeping safe and avoiding, social distances and avoiding crowds, and then proper wearing of face masks. If you need to cough or sneeze into your elbow or into a tissue paper, after which you discard the tissue paper and then you wash your hands. Make sure that you are in a very good ventilated environment. And if you find yourself in a closed environment, make sure that you do not take your masks off. And as usual, use your hand sanitizers, and when available, use soap and then running safe water to sanitize your hands. Thank you very much.
Enterprise alive and see we are moving. We are cruising. This is how it feels like to have Enterprise Life in your corner. They give solutions that make life easy every day. So now I can focus on my dreams.
Miss Moko to Kumbitibia, Enterprise Life, Wahun Shemo, I don't know. Yan, who do you move?
Hey,
I shock will.
We've got life. Dream big. Go on and dream big with us.
Dream big with us. Enterprise, your advantage. Enterprise Insurance, in partnership with KEK Insurance Brokers, presents a collaboration between two giants of Ghana's insurance industry. The offsprings of the collaboration are Compextra, Third Party Amplified, Home Advantage, and Pet Insure. Wondering what these names stand for? Let me tell you a short story. Compextra. Do you want more from your insurance provider? Compextra is the solution you have been waiting for. For a little fee on your comprehensive premium, you can get these extra benefits: loss of use, cash compensation for alternative transportation in the event of an accident. You don't have to be stranded because your car is in the workshop. Misfueling, compensation for mechanical breakdown due to the wrong fuel type in your car. Enhanced PA cover for 4 additional persons you share your ride with. That is the extra value we provide to our motor comprehensive customers. Third Party Amplified. Did you know a motor third party policy does not give you any cover for your own car? Now, with a Third Party Amplified, you can make a claim on 3 significant parts of your car, such as the windscreen, side mirrors, and minor scratches. No need to worry about the Okada drivers who hit and run. Even with a third party cover, you are sorted for some damages on your vehicle. Home Advantage. Get a home insurance policy bundled with a pet cover at a great discount. Keep your pets as safe as your home. And now, whenever you think of insuring your home, think about getting a bundle cover like the Home Advantage. Pet Insure. Introducing the pet insurance for the first time in Ghana. Our pets are lovely companions. Love them, protect them. Our pet insurance covers medical expenses, accidental death, public liability, accidental injury, and more. Together, let's keep our pets happy, healthy, and protected.
Everyone deserves that easy life. Bank in your pocket without the strife. With SC Mobile, always close. Just tap the app, it's doing them.